evening, everyone. Welcome to our Let's Talk Carlene segment under the theme Women Are Essential. I am your host, Carlene Burke, and I'm so grateful to you for joining us this evening. Together, we are here to talk about women in honor of Women's Month. Co-hosting with me this evening is Miss Esther Iyer. Esther, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Great. It's such a privilege for us to be here this evening. We have some essential women to share with us this evening how, as women in the workforce and school, has been in their lives in this pandemic. I am so thankful for this platform, which allows us to do this. Esther, would you like to say a few words to our audience?
Sure. Welcome again, everyone, and we're happy you came. We are on live on YouTube and Facebook Live. Please take this opportunity now to invite all of your friends, your neighbors, everyone. We know that we have a special program in store for you. There's something in this for every woman. Enjoy.
Great. In honor of Women's History Month, tonight we have some essential women who will be speaking with us on their experience as women in the workplace, especially with what's going on now in a pandemic. Women, before the pandemic, women had many roles, and this pandemic just give us a lot more. So this evening we will be talking about some of them. How are they doing as they go through these difficult times? Esther, tell us about our panelists.
Okay, so tonight we have a wonderful group of women joining us from just about every sector you can think of. We have first up Tanetta Mitchell, who represents women in the corporate world. Sister Tanetta, would you like to introduce yourself at this time?
Yes. Hi, Esther. Hi, Carlene. Thanks for having me. My name is Tanetta Mitchell. I'm a private banker. I've been in corporate America and the banking industry for the last 27 years. It'll be 28 years in June. I am a private banker, so I provide wealth management services to high net worth individuals. So essentially, I'm a relationship manager for any client that has 3 million or usually 5 million or more in investable assets. And then I manage their relationship. So I can help them to provide investment management services, credit services, estate and trust planning, as well as banking and anything that has to do with their financial life and wellness. That's what I do for them.
And it's definitely essential to keep our wealth safe.
It is.
Thank you for that. Sister Satania Smith, this is a woman who's on the front line. Sister Satania, feel free to introduce yourself at this time. Is Sister Satania on? She's not on. Yeah, you just unmute.
I'm sorry.
That's
We all picked that one, right? A common Zoom mistake. So I was saying, I am Satania Absalom Smith. I'm a registered nurse for approximately 10 years or so now. Yes, I am a mother of 3 children, and I'm looking forward to this evening discussion.
Thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Miss Cordelia Anthony, a woman in education. Please introduce yourself, Ms. Anthony.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cordelia Anthony. Like Esther said, I am a high school science teacher. I teach living environment at Farmingdale High School. And after school, I work as the president of my local teachers union, the Farmingdale Federation of Teachers. Nice to be here.
Nice. So it's good to know what's going on there. So we have some interesting questions for you this evening. Welcome again. And then we have a woman in remote learning, Miss Elizabeth McCall. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Mashad, and I go to St. Vincent Fair High School, and so far I've been doing online learning since last year, since freshman year, and I'm currently a sophomore.
Welcome again, Elizabeth. Happy you joined us. Next up, we have another woman on the front line, Dr. Alicia Massa-Flowers. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you and distinguished women on our panel. I'm Dr. Alicia Massa-Flowers. I am a pediatrician by trade, and I am in solo practice. I've had my practice for the past going on 7 years now out here in Springfield Gardens, Queens, New York. So very happy to be here with all of you and to share in my experience.
Thank you. Welcome again. And last but of course not least, a woman in the food industry. And we know that food is essential. Welcome, Ms. Denise Campbell. Please introduce
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Campbell. I am a personal and professional chef. I've been in the food industry for about 8 years, providing Caribbean cuisines, some with a twist, an American twist, Italian twist, you name it. I also do Caribbean pastries, normally during the holiday seasons. And that's pretty much it.
Nice. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Carlene, you have anything else you'd like to say before we start with our questions?
We just want to thank all the panelists. We just want to thank everyone for accepting this invitation to join us this evening to talk with us. And we encourage the audience to share the link. Share the link on Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe so that when we go live, you can be notified that where our program is on. So share the link and invite someone to hear this evening discussion. At this time, we're going to bring our panelists together so that we can talk.
All right, ladies, let's talk. Our first series of questions will go to Sister Satania Smith. Okay, so it's been about a year now since we've been in a pandemic. Can you tell us how you have been doing with a woman that has a family of young children working on the front line during this season of the pandemic?
Oh, as a registered nurse, working in a hospital, especially last year when the COVID-19 hit and we didn't know what it was. It still is a scary experience because we're still learning about it, and going to work and having to take care of patients, it can be emotionally draining. It's a very difficult, at least for me personally as a nurse, sometimes to disconnect your feelings from your work or this patient you're taking care of. That's not something that's very easy to do because it's not just, a mannequin, it's a human being. So sometimes if you're not careful, you can take on that stress. Mm-hmm. And with COVID, how it caused the respiratory issues, going in to see patients where their breathing and their oxygen declines in no time, in a few minutes, and now you're calling emergencies. And it's before the pandemic, nursing, we have a shortage, right? And on an average day without COVID, we're asking for more nurses to come in to help with the patient load. And with the pandemic, it made it worse. Nurses, CNAs, other healthcare professionals are going out because they're getting it. I remember once last year, I ended up with 12 patients, 12 COVID positive patients. And thank God, I still, I can give God thanks for not having contracted COVID all this time. But after taking care of 12 patients, and we do 12-hour shifts, right? And I got to work that morning at 6 o'clock or something, and I didn't leave until 12:15 a.m. at past midnight, because the night shift had 19 or something like that, where we had to help out. So I stayed back to help out. And emotionally, it is taxing. Physically, it's draining. Then there's a shortage. So they're demanding as nurses that you come in and help out again. And then being a mother of 3 young ones, 2, 4, 6, it's like coming home. You're like, what if I take this home to my family? Now, with the contracted COVID, the course of the disease can be approximately 2 weeks. And then you're thinking, who's going to take care of the kids? So it can be mentally draining. It can be stressful. And I've heard the single moms, and my husband, he's also, he has carrying an income, but it is a lot. It can be a lot.
Thank you. Is my mic on? Thank you for that. So you kind of did address, what several challenges, of course, the nurses have had, working in the actual institutions that are seeing this firsthand. What have you and your family, especially your husband, because he's also a frontline worker, what have you guys been doing to keep yourself sane? Let me just put it at that.
Well, to be honest with you, with 3 kids that age, I think that's one of the biggest challenges for me during this pandemic, is because they can't go outside. They can't play. So I am here with them most times, because I'm more of a stay-at-home mom than I actually do nursing, because after the children, I ended up becoming per diem. So I go in not as often as a lot of people, but being here with them, trust me, going to work is easier than staying home with children, okay? Mr. Anthony can attest to that, because it is a lot with kids. And with the pandemic, that is the biggest challenge for me. Not being able for them to see friends where they can release their energy, going to church, doing activities that can keep them occupied. For me, it's just me, 24/7. Even family members can't a lot of times come over, or then they're thinking, oh, do I have this? Do I have that? So it is definitely challenging with the children, for sure, especially the young ones. The older ones can do things for themselves. The little ones, you have to be there. So.
Okay. Was there anything in particular that you did to kind of keep your family safe? Especially coming in from a field that is basically contaminated. How did you, shelter your family from that?
Shelter my family. Well, like I stated before, I work per diem. So even though there was a demand, I had to know what's my priority. They wanted more help, but at the end of the day, I can only do so much. So most of the time I give what I can to help with the professional part of it. When I go to work, I come in, the children are not allowed to touch me, right? I take off my clothing and I put it in a dryer, dry, heat everything up, and I go straight in the shower and I shower. everything is hands washing, one of the biggest means of infection control, and
Yes.
so on and so forth. I mask up when I'm at work. I'm very, very, very diligent when it comes to universal precautions to prevent infection, not just for me, but also for my patients.
Yeah, I've seen some of those shields, and I just wonder, you know, how you breathe in that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Thank you so much for your input.
My pleasure.
Moving on to Dr. Flowers. So you have also been on the front line, and I know the larger focus has been on the physicians that are within the, you know, bigger medical facilities. But of course, in your practice, you see a lot as well. Can you tell us what it was like for you in the middle of all of this? And what expectations, is this correct? Okay, this is an adjustment. So what challenges did you have working within the community?
All right, so good question. And I'm glad that that point was brought out because when you look at, in terms of the media, they do tend to really focus only on the hospitals. And I think people forgot sometimes that the community docs were basically in the trenches as well. And the same thing that happened in the hospitals where you did not have enough protective equipment, it was even worse for us as, solo practice, well, just physicians practicing out in the field outside of a hospital or medical center. So for us, I honestly did not receive my first set of PPEs until, thank God, one of the elected officials in my area and district was kind enough to remember me. And that's how I got my first mask, literally. And in addition to that, my first face shield also came from my senator, my elected senator and my assemblywoman. So all through it, and that took they were pretty good in terms of when I did get it. Like within a week or two, I got my first mask and face shield. But believe it or not, just like the hospital, I did have to ration it. So I have two medical assistants plus myself. So I literally we all would have to wear our mask for a period of 5 days, which is not how the masks are designed. So I definitely had to ration masks. I had to ration gloves, everything. Like in the beginning, I wasn't even wearing gloves when I was taking care of the patient, unless I actually had to physically do a COVID swab. And then that was in its own a problem of even just getting testing. Like we didn't even have test kits at that point in the early part of it. And then it would take so long to get back the results. So literally every day going to work for me and my staff was just a risk every single day. At least, nurses, doctors, and healthcare workers who work in the hospitals or the nursing homes, it was almost as if they were really the priority. And I think that is too why a lot of primary care physicians that have outpatient practices closed during the time of COVID. So lots of people, did mention that, well, my doctor's office was closed or not even open. And looking back, I couldn't understand why, because I guess, I'm wired differently. Like I took the risk, but a lot of physicians were not taking the risk. They just did not open. A lot of pediatric practices closed. We remained open through the whole thing. Yes, I adjusted my hours. That's basically what I did. I decreased some of our office hours and my schedule to try to protect myself and my staff. That's what we did. But we were open during the whole time. And in addition to that, I literally was working 7 days a week. you know, anywhere between 6 to 7 days, because it was my regular Monday through Friday practice. And before I used to work 6 or 7 days, so it wasn't really that much of an issue. But on the weekends, what I was doing was volunteering and doing pop-up testing. Whenever we could get enough test kits from labs, I would go out and I was doing mobile testing along with the Northeastern Conference medical van. And a couple of times the Greater New York medical van came along with us. So we were in areas of the Bronx, in Harlem, in Brooklyn, and Long Island, wherever there was a need. And we even went upstate and Massachusetts and Connecticut. We went through the whole Northeastern Conference and some parts of the Greater New York Conference. And we did mobile testing for free. We didn't charge anything. Everything came under my name. I had hundreds and hundreds of specimens, not just from my office, but throughout the Northeastern Conference and the Greater New York Conference to process. So that's how I spent and have been spending my COVID time. And like right now, right before the call, now we're gearing up for vaccinations and how we're going to try to go into the communities and vaccinate.
Okay. So since you, of course, you know, you're a woman in business and, you know, the community, how has that affected you in a negative way? Because it seems like positively you really got that exposure, you know, of your practice, and then just volunteering after that in other communities where your practice isn't obviously there, but did you experience any negative impacts?
In terms of income, that's a good question. If it is negative, I didn't feel it as much. I really did not. In the beginning, probably I started to get a little nervous, I think, because obviously, you know, a lot of parents were not coming in with their kids, you know, and a lot of people were just not leaving. But we were amongst the fortunate to have gotten the what do they call it? The Paycheck Protection Program. We were able to get that, and that really did help tremendously. And I thank God that it was a resource that was available. And thankfully, with this new administration, it's available again. And so we were able to get it again. So honestly, I don't really think I felt it. Now, I don't do a lot of the financial part. So like my business manager would probably have to weigh in on it. I try not to pay attention to a lot of that stuff because I have my hands full with just running the clinical aspect of the practice. But honestly, I think to God be the glory, because quite honestly, I think we did very well. Like, I think, yes, if we didn't have the pandemic, yeah, maybe I would have been doing better because then it would be more patients, a higher volume. But I'm actually enjoying it because it's, well, we're busy now. And, you know, as of June, once they lifted the restrictions in New York, we became very busy again. Like it was an explosion because then everybody came out and it was a lot. But I would probably say the decrease was probably from March to about middle of May. And then after that, it was just an explosion. It kind of went back to where I normally would have been.
Okay. And how have you been coping mentally? What have you been doing to keep yourself, you know, in balance, basically?
Honestly, I think the best thing is the fact that well, right before the pandemic, not too far before that, I had gotten sick. So I had already reduced my schedule where I did not go in on Fridays. And so with the pandemic, I actually just kept that schedule. And for me, that has done a world of good because it's almost like a built-in 3-day holiday every week. Whereas before, you know, with the exception of the times when I went out in the community, it was like a 6 to 7 day work week. But like right now, I'm not, you know, doing the community testing in the field anymore. Like everybody will just come to the office. So it's great because I still kept the Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, which is amazing. So that helps because then I feel human again. So that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Okay, thank you for that. Carlene, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Esther, for that. We'll move on now to the education department. Cordelia, the education in this country has been struggling since the pandemic, and you know that. And teachers have been in the front line for their students. As a teacher, among others, you had to quickly move to your classroom online and have to find interesting ways to keep your student active and together. So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you had to deal with, and why?
Initially, last year, can't believe I'm saying that, last year when we shut down in March of last year, it was definitely just a challenge just to get in contact with students. Some of the students, you know, just weren't joining class. They had, you know, checked out. You know, everybody was panic stricken. People were sick. Their family members were sick. And so that was the initial challenge. It also kind of brought out disparity. Like some people didn't have good enough Wi-Fi to join class. Some people just didn't, you know, have that situation that could allow them to be a part of what was going on. And no matter what we did to reach out, it was difficult not to be able to connect. My school district started, for teachers anyway, 5 days a week in September. And so we came back in September. And so the students in my building were coming every other day, like in cohorts every other day. But it's been a challenge still because there are some students still remote teaching. And my fellow teacher friend here in our chat, Sister Heather Scott, said to tell you teachers are going crazy. It's a lot to manage if you are working in front of students. And then there's also students in this platform on a screen. So this is what I do all day. Are you okay? Are you okay? Did you understand? Did you understand? And it becomes a little challenging to, you know, one, this is not normal practice for teenagers, at least the level I teach. And it's, you know, it's a little exhausting. It's a little bit more than expected. And we're trying. We're doing our best. Every student is not catching on to this format. This is not ideal for teenagers anyway. And so every day is a struggle, and we're just trying to make sure that we keep kids as healthy as we can and that we don't get sick ourselves.
Wow, I can only imagine. So my thing is, you might have experienced struggling families, especially like single mothers, you know, and guardians. So who have to stay on top of their children and manage their career also? What advice do you offer to them in their struggle? I know, you know, there's a lot of stuff. They have their own career that they have to deal with. They have to, you know, look at work. They have to be on their conference call and attending to their students. So how do you encourage them? What advice do you offer to them?
Basically, my advice for the most part was to tell them to give themselves some grace. You know, it's nobody had done this before. This is unheard of, where you're trying to work remotely if you were able to, and you're trying to help your child learn remotely. That was an unheard of thing, and it was unexpected. There were bumps in the road. They didn't know the technology to help their child, and it was definitely a difficult thing. Depending on what level the students were, you know, K through 12, it was a difficulty. And so usually when I spoke to parents, you know, if their children had been missing from class, or, you know, they think their child is in the room on class, but that's not what they're on. And I called them, I was like, listen, you know, we're all adjusting, give yourself some grace, give your child some grace. And then after that, let's see if we can kind of get through this together.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Good advice. I would take that. As the president of the Farmingdale's Federation of Teachers and also a woman, how challenging is it to make decision for the district of schools?
So it's definitely difficult in some sense because I have to work closely with our district superintendent. Like here on Long Island, every town kind of has their own school board. So, the members that are elected to school board are holding us responsible for making sure we're doing the best we can for the students. Everyone in the communities don't agree about, how much restriction, how much mask wearing, it's definitely a daily conversation about, hey, we need to keep the students safe. We do understand schools, at this point anyway, need to open as soon as we can. Parents are struggling in certain sectors, but it's obviously a daily conversation to make sure that everyone is still going to stay safe because we're still getting, COVID positives daily. We get a daily report. We're still getting students positive and staff positives. So it's definitely something that we're treading the fine line, trying to make sure that we try to bring the kids back safely and give them some normalcy, but we also have to make sure that we are keeping the staff and as well as students safe.
Great, thank you so much. And you have been teaching for a very long time now, and I know you love it. Personally, I see your passion for teaching and stuff. So does this pandemic or all that's going on right now, does that make do you have any regrets of being a teacher now?
It is not what it was. I started teaching, you're right, I started teaching 21 years ago, and I say that my brain shifts, but teaching has changed over the years, but this is different. For me, I'm still in love with doing it. It's just like how, like you mentioned, find a creative way to spin what I'm doing now. Science has to be fun, even though we can't touch too many things, which is what, it's usually a hands-on type of learning experience, but I still love it. Has it pushed a lot of teachers to consider retirement that are capable to? Yes, but most of us are still plugging through it and trying to get through it.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Cordelia. Thank you so much for those beautiful, beautiful answers to our question. Esther, I'll turn over to you again.
Okay. So we're now going to highlight our student, Elizabeth. Welcome again. I just have a few questions for you. So like the teachers, it has been a struggle with students learning in the pandemic. What are some of the pros and cons for you as a high school student with distant learning?
So some of the pros, like, unlike like most people I talk to, they like complain about school, like they rather be in the building. But me, I personally, I love staying home because I get more time to do everything. And like, but a con would be that when the assignments are due, because since teachers think you have more time, you actually don't. Like, I have more time to do my work, but there's other stuff I do in my life besides school. Like, I don't want my life just to be all about schoolwork, so I'm gonna look for something else, like productive to do. So like when the teachers assign it like the same night of like 11:59, like, because sometimes I get homework assignments due Saturday night, Sunday night, and it's just like I don't even have school on that day. So it would be annoying for me just to like go out my way to do it when technically it's supposed to be due the time when we go back to school.
Right. Okay.
But mostly I have pros because for me, I make a schedule and I have timers for everything. So I just try to do my best to keep myself organized.
Very good. Very good.
Good.
What strength have you as a female student? How has this been helping you to build up your focus to be a woman of strength in the future? So basically, what plans do you have? How is this helping you to meet your goals?
It helps me because it prepares me for any basically a chaotic situation like this, which is the whole year, because at any given time, I'm not going to always have a building to go to. So it's my job to make sure I get my work done and I hand in the assignments when it comes on time. Because, like, if I have a late assignments, a lot of points get taken off. So I just have to make sure that I do it no matter where I am.
Very good, very good. So we can definitely see that you're addressing things that do come up in just everyday life, and you seem to be very in tune and trying to prepare yourself for that, and that's great. Um, how is the preparation? Because right now you're in high school. How is this affecting you with now deciding about college or what you would like to pursue after high school?
It doesn't affect it that much because the school still makes sure we have the same classes we would in the building, same time, same schedule and everything. So it's just a matter of focusing in more on what I want to do in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't think that virtual learning would hinder your progress in college then?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your input, Elizabeth. Great. Go ahead, Carlene. On to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Esther. Now we move on to the corporate business. Sister Taneta Mitchell. Women in corporation business have been facing many challenges, one of which diversity and equality in the workplace. Women play so many roles in their lives. The pandemic takes the struggles and challenges to a whole new level, and a lot of us can see that. So, balancing home life and parenting with the workload in a daily basis is more crazier than it's ever been. So, I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and you can elaborate on it a lot more based on what comes up in your mind. So, as a woman in leadership role in corporate business and a mother of two lovely daughters, how do you balance your everyday commitment and parenting in the new norm of lifestyle today?
I will say that it's constantly changing and it's constantly a balancing act. I would say in the very beginning, I really struggled with it because I felt like my work world, I knew how to do that really well. My home life, I knew how to do that. You get breakfast on the table, you get yourself together, you go to work. Okay, you sit in your office and you work and you deal with your clients and you help them make more money. But now you're actually in your home and the children see you, but you're working still and you still have responsibilities. And then you add on to that the diversity aspect. I'm one of only two Black women in my role in all of New York and in a really white male dominated field. And I have to constantly stay relevant. And I constantly work like it's my first day on the job because you have to. And I think it was a struggle. It's a constant struggle to stay relevant, to perform. Because even though you can say, oh, you're in a pandemic and clients don't have this and, it's harder to work, the banks still want the bottom line to be producing revenue, growing, and who's doing that. So for me, it's been a struggle, but it's a blessing that I can be home. I have a lot of respect for my panelists who are on the front line. So I can say, yes, I have the luxury of actually doing that at home, but it's not without its own struggles and challenges. Also with children, God bless teachers and everything. I can't sometimes figure out how to get onto one link and get the assignment over here. And I have advanced degrees. It's not easy. So I'll say that it's a work in progress. It's constantly changing. I've tried to be a little bit easier on myself and realize, okay, I'm home. And, sometimes work will have to wait a bit so that I can take care of what needs to happen here. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I've been managing it.
Yeah, listening to your introduction earlier too. I don't even have this on my paper, but listening to your introduction later and know that you have multiple of clients that you have to do you have to do
Yeah.
business with. So it are some of these business like business owners that had to close their business down and they need financial help. Do they have to come into you? How do how do you work that out with them? Do you have to say, listen, the bank don't have the money, we can't help you right now? How does that work?
Yeah, that's been a challenge. So in my world, again, it's usually 5 million or more. So you have clients who have hundreds of millions of dollars. They're very wealthy clients, but they're not without challenges and struggles. So we do have real estate clients who, if you're a real estate client, you're not getting the same type of money. Your rent roll isn't the same. You're a business owner. People aren't going to movie theaters, so you'll struggle that way. So we've Sister Dr. Flowers talked about PPP. We've done some of those loans for clients. We've refinanced some properties for clients. We try to work with them, of course, in any way possible. We also think out of the box when it comes to credit. So we'll lend against art that's on your wall. Obviously, at 50% loan to value, it has to be worth 5 million or more. However, we will do that. So we've been creative in our lending and trying to take care of clients, of course.
Great. That's beautiful. And I know this next question can be in a different level or could be a way broader, and it's a whole different, it could be a whole different show. So is it safe to talk a little about diversity and equality in your corporate world? Do you have protocols to place to prevent those issues?
So I'll say that at my company, they've really taken a great stand, as many other companies have. And it's really, unfortunately, after the death of George Floyd, that companies have come out and taken that strongest stand. We've always had a diversity policy, but I don't think many corporations had the open dialogue where people are really now talking about it for real,
right,
and talking about microaggressions. And so this is really, and again, 27 years, and we've had diversity, but it's really, it hasn't been as strong as it is now. And they're putting money into companies and businesses and women-owned business and Black-owned businesses. So now we're having real conversations around diversity, and it's about time.
It's about time, and a lot of corporation and businesses are doing that now. So we hope it works, and we hope we get answers, and we hope things get better eventually. So, in just a short sentence, anyone out there listening who is a business owner and looking for financial help, what would you advise them to do right now? Just in a short sentence.
So I would go online to see what programs are available from the government under whether it's PPP. And I know there's some deadlines. I think March 31st might have been the last deadline. I'm not sure, or it will be the last deadline. But I would say do your research, go online. Don't think that, I don't know, because you're in a certain industry that support isn't there for you. So I would just say, do your research and see what's out there for you. And don't obviously be afraid to take advantage of it.
Great. Thank you so much, Sister Tiniata, my girl. Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting and very informative. And I do hope the audience are listening and they will take your advice. Thank you so much. So our next person will be Miss Denise Campbell. She's in the food industry, and we're gonna talk to you, Denise, about a few little things. Is Denise there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, good evening.
Thank you again for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the restaurant industry took the biggest hit during the pandemic. And after speaking to you over the weekend, I realized you don't actually have a restaurant, your business in your home. And that's so interesting. So tell us a little bit about that. How are you managing from your home?
I'm a home-based chef. I provide personal meals. I also did private events. You know, someone's having a romantic birthday dinner at home. I'd go into their homes, bring produce, bring products, meats, etc., and I'd cook a meal. The most challenging part of this whole pandemic was in the beginning. I'm a solo chef. I handpicked all my fruits, my vegetables. You're hearing about this virus, even though I have a food protection license that covers E. coli, salmonella, those type of viruses you're familiar with. When you're hearing of the coronavirus and how deadly it is, basic training skills, oh, salmonella, E. coli, you kill those with just cooking. I'm worried about my fruits. I'm worried about my vegetables, something as simple as preparing a salad for someone. I actually stopped preparing non-cooked foods. There was no salad. You can't wash salads, obviously, in bleach, for the fear of someone consuming bleach. So that was eliminated completely. Some people don't like cooked vegetables. They prefer salad. So that became challenging in saying, hey, you don't like this kind of vegetable, but maybe I can cook it in a way that you may really enjoy it. Maybe you just never liked that vegetable to begin with because it just wasn't cooked in the way you like, so you had the challenge of trying to convince those customers, hey, I cannot give you a salad. I cannot give you non-cooked foods because of the obvious coronavirus. There were times when I wasn't able to go outside, especially in the beginning, because I handpicked everything. There was that fear, your local supermarkets, your local warehouses, they were shut down. You can't get anything. You can't get any meals. So that part of it became very challenging, just getting produce and being able to get those products out to the customers. There were people who they relied on me for their meals to take to work. They relied on meals just during the week. And that all just came to an abrupt ending for a lot of people. So just the virus itself and food contamination was the biggest fear. And for the first 2-3 months, there were just no meals for anyone at all, just out of fear of just not having enough knowledge of the virus and how it may be transmitted in non-cooked foods.
Wow. So in that sense now, that would cause a financial struggle for you. How did you survive that?
I do have a 9-to-5. So I was able to still have a source of income. But as far as the business was impacted, there was no income for those months. There was no income for those months.
So do you have the staff that you have to pay?
I pay staff when we have events. I have contracted workers that work with me. So in the beginning and of the summer months, those workers, they would have to get paid when we do events. So if we have a wedding or we have a birthday event or any type of event, whether it was indoors or outdoors, they would have to get paid. But again, those payments are based on hired contracted work. So my customers would then pay for service. Even that came with challenges. We're not used to working in the heat with a mask, a face shield, and constantly having to change gloves, throughout the entire service. Once you're working with prepared foods and you're touching it, you're required to wear gloves. But because of fear of cross-contamination or simply just touching a utensil and touching something else, you don't want people to get sick. So that was very challenging, working in heat, whether it's outdoors, cooking over a hot portable stove or a barbecue grill, wearing all those PPEs was very, very challenging, especially during the summer months.
Great.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to display to us so we can promote you and show us something. So show us something. Yep, lift it up. Show us something that we could see. Oh, you just give us the card, and if you're viewing, you can see the card. I hope you guys can take a picture
Oh,
of the
nice.
card so we can support Denise with her business. She's an home-based chef, and she can take care of any event that you want, any event that you have going on, she can take care of it. So now that we know you, Denise, the Women's Ministry Department at the Grand Concourse will be calling you up for some of our events so we can support your business. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on this evening and share your experience with us and tell us a little bit about your business. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure moving forward, you will be hearing a lot more from our audience, knowing that you prepare such delicious meal, so everyone would want to partake of it. Thank you so much. And I just want to
Thank
thank
you. Thanks for
everyone on
having
the
me.
panel this evening. I'm not sure if anyone has any question directly to any of the panelists. If you would like to do that, we will take a minute or two to do that with you, and then we would wrap up this session.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
checking the chat. Just to
Okay.
see if, there are any questions there. I do have a question for Dr. Flowers in regards to the vaccines. Um, what is the process like in making that available for your practice? And will you be doing something like you did before when you were doing like mobile testing by, communities? Would you consider doing that with the vaccine?
So the way that they're doing it, ironically last night, tonight, and last week, I've been on a couple of Zoom meetings regarding the vaccine. The way they've set it up, I think President Biden and his administration has done a wonderful job in terms of getting so many people vaccinated. And I believe that their focus was really trying to get the 1 million, get to the 1 million mark. And so the only way that I think they could really do that, or they felt that they could do that, was to do it as in a mass production kind of way. So what they did, they focused on places that would be able to vaccinate massive amounts of people in a rapid warp speed time. So, you'll see like over here in Queens, which is where I got my first dose, was York College. And, they're doing pharmacies, they're doing stadiums, schools that have large gymnasiums. That's what they're doing. So if you go to vaccinefinder.gov, G-O-V, Vaccine Finder, even if you just Google Vaccine Finder, it will pull up and it'll ask you where your zip code is, and it'll basically tell you where you can find the vaccines. So that's first and foremost. Now, what I and other physicians that are in my situation that are in private practice, what we've been advocating for is that the Black Latino community it's a whole different beast when you're trying to vaccinate people, just like when you were trying to get people tested. There's already, and rightfully so, a certain level of distrust in the medical community where people of color are. And rightfully so, because of the historical events that have happened to people of color. So what docs like I have been advocating for is that doing the mass vaccination program is not going to work for people in our community unless you are actually motivated to do it, or like some people, like, the pipeline coming down are educators, including to now be forced to be vaccinated. So the way to properly do it, we felt in communities of color, are to put it in the hands of the physicians or the outpatient medical practices where people are actually more trusting of their personal doctor, as opposed to walking into, like for myself, York College to go get a vaccine by the unknown. And so that's what's coming down in the pipelines now. You'll probably start, hopefully, seeing within the next 2 to 4 weeks, the vaccines now being available in your doctor's office. One of the organizations that I'm a part of fought hard, and we're actually tonight, that's what they were talking about, was that physicians like myself may actually get the vaccine in hand in our practice as soon as Monday. And so that's like what we're hoping for. Now, the way that they have, they're going to do distributing it, and once you get the vaccine, you're basically on a use it or lose it system. So if they give you 100 vaccines, you must vaccinate 100 people in that week. If you don't, you lose your opportunity to continue to order and vaccinate people, period. So there are some challenges, obviously, with that. And if you don't, like, let's say they give it to you on Monday, by Friday, or let's say Sunday to be, or Saturday, actually, big Sunday, Saturday, to be fair, you should be finished with it. And you have 5 days to try and get most of it done before you can even place your order. So there are some challenges where I can see that might be an issue for like primary care docs out in the field. But at the same time, if you want to, let's say, do a pop-up, like if I were to want to do a pop-up, I have to think about it because there's the transport issue of the vaccines. They have to remain cool. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine doesn't have to have the ultra cold temperatures like the other vaccines. So that might be a little easier. But at the same time, I can see some logistical issues in terms of doing a pop-up vaccination rollout like we did before with the testing.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I have a question for Denise. Denise, someone is asking if you do vegetarian and vegan dishes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Cordelia, someone is asking you to tell them how are the teachers losing their mind.
Listen, man, I just say amongst this group of people, pray for us. I mean, it's all good. We have a little break coming up. Sorry, parents, we have a little spring break coming up, and we'll try to get ourselves together to push through to the rest of the school year. But yes, we're it's a struggle. That's all I'm saying. It's a struggle right now, but we'll be okay.
Right. Thank you. So thank you, guys. We're almost out of time. So I just want to thank the panelists for such a tremendous discussion. It was great, and I do appreciate you coming on this evening to talk about your experience in your workforce or your career, of what's going on and how you're dealing with, especially as women, how we're coping and dealing with what's going on, the new norm. But before we go, we close down tonight, I just want to mention one thing to us, to us all our viewers. Next week, Sunday, on this platform, we will be having a series under the theme Jesus' 7 last words. If you are curious about those 7 last words, you will want to join us next week. And I'm going to ask my producer to show that flyer so you can see the dynamic speakers that we have lined up for you next week, starting next Sunday at 7:30, right here on this platform. I ask that you invite everyone you come across with, everyone on your Facebook page, everyone that's on your WhatsApp page. Invite everyone, share the link, subscribe to our YouTube page. So when each night that we go live, you will be notified and you can join us and share the link with others. So tune in next week, Sunday at 7:30, and you will be blessed and help others to be blessed. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much. And you will be hearing from us as women in the Women's Ministry Department at the Grand Concourse Church. You will be hearing from us more again. And we ask that you will continue to support us and also pray for us. Thank you again. And may God bless you all. And thank you for tuning in. And God bless and have a good night. See you then. Good night.
Good night.